Hi guys, welcome to Fierce and Pretty. Honey here, and today I thought we would talk about astrology and tarot. And the reason why I'm choosing this topic now is the latest book I finished, The Tarot and Astrology by Corrinekenner. And I thought, because I've been really interested about learning some more astrology, but I want to still link it to the tarot and start learning it by that way. I know that in astrology you should travel through the natal chart and everything, but there's still so much to learn, and I'm on that path already. I've started, but the main reason I wanted to get to know the astrology was to understand the astrology and the tarot cards better. And for that, I think this book is great as like a first stepping stone into the astrology in the tarot. And if you already know tarot, then it's really easy for you to start understanding the astrology with this book. So it's a beginner book. But when it comes to really about astrology studies, this focuses more on the modern astrology. And on actual astrology, I'm currently a bit more interested in the old Hellenistic astrology, like traditional astrology. So I'm still figuring things out and the differences. Like with tarot studies, I'm tipping my toes in Marseille and got really enthusiastic about Thoth, and then so trying to just find my way and what works for me. And inspired by that book, because it's illustrated with these cards. That's also, they are by John J. Blumen and Corrinekenner, who wrote the book for this. And mine, as you can see, is a Spanish version. So it's the Witch's Tarot in English. I think that's the correct name, Witch's Tarot, yeah, because there are two decks named similarly in English, but this is the Corrinekenner version. But this deck is sold out. It's a mass-produced deck, and it's sold out, and the prices on eBay were ridiculous. And I'm happy that I didn't, because when I got to look through the deck, I'll show it to you quickly and use it in some parts of this video. But to say that deck, for me, the price is on eBay like $200, $400. I'm happy I didn't buy it on that price, because I paid for the Spanish version 20 euros on Amazon. So that was doable. But I'll show you more about these cards later on. So what I liked about this book is the way it was constructed. In the order that it goes through the cards is not like first through major arcana, then minor. So if you read enough tarot books, you get a bit bored on that same order where things go, and you have to read the same things over and over and over in the same order. So the way that this works is laid out differently. And what surprised me was that it has a nice short also part of Kabbalah, and which I thought that as a beginner book, trying to transfer from just learning the card meanings and standard systems, this is a nice introductory book to other stuff that is also included in tarot before you have to deep in those deeper books that I've shown already about, for example, Kabbalah. So I'm just gonna run through this book really quickly here and talk about the good things I liked about this. So first, it starts with the basics. It goes through the elements, of course talks about majors and minors shortly. So I love that it has the elements in it. But first real section after the introductions is that we'll go through the planets, like in a short way. And it includes the ancient seven, but also the new planets. So it has both of them. But then how it starts to go through the cards, it jumps first into Sun. And here's the Sun card from this deck, El Sol, because it is the Spanish version. But it starts from the sun, and it has like a chapter, then a following page after that. And then this book has nice spreads, and they are all astrological spreads and easy, and the way that they are explained are really good. So even a beginner can try those, so they are really nice. Then it jumps to the moon, and it doesn't go to the moon card, of course. It goes to the high priestess, because that's the card in tarot that represents moon. So it goes through the planets, through the major arcana that are represented, representing the planets in the tarot. So that's the logic how this book just goes on and on. So it's not going in chronological numerical order or anything. It goes in the order of the planets and then the majors assigned to that planet. And the way this book speaks about the major arcana, it's not only about the tarot meaning of the card. It includes the planetary meaning. It explains the planets through these tarot cards. And I found that really interesting. It gives more personality also to the planets. For example, here on the Empress, it says, in the Empress card, Venus takes human form, and one of the cosmos' most heavenly bodies finds an outlet for her creative nature. And then it talks things about the Empress and the Venus, like hand in hand. And it also appoints here that Venus rules two signs, Taurus and Libra. So it gives you these correspondences in astrology. Then after the planetary signs, it goes to the zodiacal cards, because we do have also the zodiacal meanings, and it has all the glyphs if you are not used to them yet. It explains nicely about how the signs are being cardinal, fixed, and mutable. And I think these are really interesting topics and things that I'm really interested in now when I'm also studying a lot about the decans, so the minor cards in the Wheel of the Year. And so, because the Wheel of the Year starts in Aries, so the Emperor is our first zodiacal card. So then it starts going through in order these zodiacal trumps. So Aries for Emperor, and so on and so on. And it has nice summarizing tables, which are really useful, so you don't have to learn back and front, but you can return to these. And here we have the glyph, the planet of the sign, the significance, so few keywords, and then the tarot card representing that specific planet or the zodiacal sign. Then with the minor arcana, it talks again about elemental dignities. And firstly, because if we look at the round pie charts about the Wheel of the Year, I'll attach one above, we know that the ace is not part of anything. They rule quadrants of the world with the princess cards, so they are outside in a way, on the way outer rim of the Wheel of the Year. But it uses the elemental dignities here. And one thing I like about the illustration, because I was actually hoping for more symbolism, written symbols in these cards, like they are in the Thoth deck. I like how they are represented there. But if you look real close, I'll try to zoom in it more. But here we see at the Ace of Wands, we see all the fire signs represented. There's a glyph for Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So it's a great way if you are still learning about the elemental correspondences in the suits, for example. They are represented there. And after the aces, it goes through this really nice introduction about Kabbalah. And I like that it even goes through the four worlds of Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asaya. And it comes and it returns in the book when it's talking about each card. It tells you from which world on the tree of life of these it is, and it explains. So that's why I think this is a really nice introduction also for Kabbalah. It has also the tree of life. The only thing that puzzled me in this tree of life version in this book was why the pages are in the fourth Sephirat in Chesed, and then because pages normally, and then the pages are also in 10th in Malkuth, because I'm used to the Thoth way, so that the kings are up in Chokmah in the second Sephira, queens in Binah in the third Sephira, then depending on the system, in this system they are princes. In Thoth they would be also the princes, but in Rider-Waite-Smith they are the knights, because in this one it has kings, but in Thoth the knights are the highest rank, so the eldest like the king. That confusing, but I'm used to seeing knights here and then the pages or princesses down in Malkuth, but this puts pages in both, so princesses in both. And that's, if anybody knows what's that all about, let me know down in the comments. It gives also the paths and the Hebrew letters for the paths, and they are in written form, not in Hebrew symbols or in Hebrew. Then as we continue into the minor arcana, I love the way this book tells and explains how things should go into the wheel of the year. If we put the zodiacal trumps inside, then we put the minors around according to the decans, and then the court cards. There's one issue with court cards in this book, but I'll return to that later. But here we see that the aces and the princesses, or the pages in this deck, they are not inside the wheel, they do other stuff. But this explains nicely and summarizes the cardinals and fixed immutable stuff, and where everything goes and how they are. And I really liked the part how it explained the planetary rulers and sub-rulers. And as with the sub-rulers, we talk about the planetary ruler things that are really easily visible, like in the Thoth deck. For the two of swords is the moon in Libra. So we talk about those, and I really find this book really nice for that. Even though in this deck, it doesn't show you this glyphs anywhere. It doesn't have those. I would have liked to have those also in this deck. Maybe I can write them here with a marker that doesn't come off. I do have them in the Thoth, and I do have them in the Tarot of the Spirits and in Tabula Mundi and Rosetta. But maybe I would like to have them here also, so I can write them, and it's going to be a nice exercise, for example. But the section about the sub-rulers explains why the moon here is in the Libra, in the Two of Swords. Because Libra as a sign, as we talk about Justice card, is ruled by Venus. It's the planetary ruler of the zodiacal sign of Libra. But for this decan, the first decan of Libra, the Two of Swords, there is moon in Libra. So we have to consider things that are coming to this card through Venus as the ruler of Libra, and then moon ruling this, or working in this decan, the first decan of Libra. So it explains those stuff really nicely. And the order the book proceeds to go through the minors is in the order of the decans. So we start from first decan of Aries, so we go through first 2, 3, 4 of Wands, then 5, 6, 7 of Pentacles, then we come to Gemini, and we go through the 8, 9, and 10 of swords. So that's the logic how it goes through the minor arcana. And I wanted to read you one example of how the book speaks about the minor arcana, because I really liked it. It had good things in it. 9 of Swords, Mars in Gemini. And if you ever think about how the majors are involved to this specific card of each decan, Mars is of course presented in the Tower card, and for Gemini we have the Lovers. And in this deck we do have a bit more symbols included in the majors. Here we have the Gemini in the Lovers card, which connects to this card also, and then in the Tower card, which connects to Mars. It's harder to see, it's dark, but it's right there beside the Tower. We have the symbol for Mars, and then we do also have the Hebrew letters. But the best way for me to start it, when I started to learn about the decans and the meanings of the subplanetary rulers, was also to consider the major arcana part of it. So, 9 of Swords, Mars in Gemini. Lord of Despair and Cruelty. Mars, the planet of energy and aggression, doesn't tone down his warlike nature when he travels through the signs. In fact, when he steps in as the ruler of Gemini's second decan, he finds a whole arsenal of mental weaponry at his disposal. In Gemini, Mars doesn't play war games. He plays mind games. Fully armed with verbal and intellectual ammunition, Mars bombards his adversaries with a full battle array. He imprisons them in a tower of despair. He launches insults and criticism, hard words and wicked thoughts. He plants seeds of doubt in a trusting mind and unleashes stealth attacks in the form of nightmares and unconscious fears. He'll try every tactic in turn in an unrelenting assault on the opponent of his choosing. In the 9 of Swords, Mars' target happens to be a young woman. She sits upright in bed and tries to clear her mind, but she can't sleep while her thoughts race through enemy territory. There's a fine line between love and hate, and this card link to the Gemini Lovers reminds us that former friends and confidants make the cruelest opponents. They know our weaknesses and they are willing to exploit them. The 9 of Swords connection to the Magician card also reminds us of Mercury's shadow side, in which the trickster god took a perverse pleasure in undermining those who trusted him. The Golden Dawn designers of this card called Mars in Gemini the Lord of Despair and Cruelty, because it illustrates the brutal effect of a mental assault under the cover of darkness. Kabbalistically, the 9 of Swords depicts Yesod, the 9th sphere of foundation. It corresponds to the moon, the orb of a reflection. It's positioned in Yetzirah, the airy realm of thought. The young woman's worries are merely shadows in the night. Her concerns have no basis in reality. In a tarot reading, the 9 of Swords often represents restless nights, anxious dreams, insomnia, and panic attacks. The second decan of Gemini usually falls between June 1st and 10th, when the sun is between 10 and 20 degrees Gemini. So that is the way it goes through, for example, the minor cards, and I really like them. They paint a nice mental image. Then when we go to the court cards, it also includes them into the Wheel of the Year. But as I said, the princesses, which are pages in this deck, are on the outer rims, and they are gone through first. And it also uses the elemental dignities. But for me, there is one issue. It only starts with the kings and the princes. So this book and deck uses the elemental dignities in a card different way that I'm used to. This deck assigns heir to the kings. So Taurus and the King of Pentacles would rule this second. It would be the second ruling court card. But as you see here, we have the Prince of Discs here if we use the Thoth system. So this wouldn't be the Knight card in Thoth or the King card in, if we would use Rider-Waite-Smith. This is the Prince, which should be in this deck, the Knight. But instead, this system uses the elemental dignities in another way. And I know some people prefer that. But it assigns fire to the princes and air to the kings. And I do things differently. For me, the kings are fire, and the princes or knights or whatever they would be in a deck are the air. So that's why I wrote down with a pencil the correct elemental correspondences to my taste into this book, and I also wrote the actual Thoth significator card for this in the book. So things stay clear in my mind. So that's the only thing that I don't like in this book, that it has changed the elemental correspondences with the two male court cards. It has the same table that we do have in the Lon Milo Duquette's book that I use a lot. It's in a different form, but I still prefer to use the Lon Milo Duquette's version. So I'm talking about this book, Understanding Thoth Tarot by Lon Milo Duquette. So I'm talking about these charts that I use a lot, and they are in somewhere page 207, starting from 207 in the Lon Milo Duquette's book. But if you are fine about if you use the elemental correspondences in the way that this deck does, this works for you. But for me, I wouldn't use that for me unless I wrote on top of it. Then after going the court cards, it starts to move into more of the astrology part per se. It explains the house systems and rulerships and ruling signs, ruling planets, and it gives you these nice spreads. I will show you a version of these spreads also in this video. And it gives you sample readings which are explained really well card by card. So I really like that. And as I said, that this book uses the modern way of assigning ruling planets to each zodiacal sign. So if you prefer to use it, it's here. But I prefer to use the old planetary rulers by the old 7 planets. Then what it does, it explains the houses on the birth chart and gives you nice little first understanding of how to understand the houses while doing a birth chart. It doesn't go really thoroughly into those, but as I said, this is a good beginner book and understanding things through tarot and just tipping your toes into astrology. Then it also has these birth charts and explains how to go through them. And at the end, we do have a nice glossary, which this is something that I find really helpful and useful as a beginner in astrology, so you can find like what does it mean if we talk about the ascendant, so the rising sign. It explains those things and many astrological terms which might be a bit more unfamiliar to tarot people. So overall, I find this really nice book, easy read. One thing I always appreciate as being a Finn and not speaking English as my first language in any ways, that it was easy to read. The text was understandable. It didn't use too many fancy words, and if it did, it explained those. So it's even for English-speaking people who don't know the concepts that we are talking about so well. So it explains them. Sorry, the cat is showing her antenna. But I really liked it. It was fast read. It was interesting, helpful. It helped me. It helped push me forward in my astrology studies. I don't consider this book to be very deep in any matters, but a nice starting point if you are coming from the tarot background. So I will show you one spread from the book and how it looks like to use those tarot cards doing those astrological spreads. So if you like it, that's coming up next. And I'm adding a full flip through of my Spanish version of this deck to the end if you're thinking of buying that Spanish version, even though the guidebook is also in Spanish. And if you don't speak Spanish, you're not able to do a lot about it. Maybe if you have a Spanish friend, you could give it to them. But the guidebook with the deck, it's a nice bigger size guidebook. The pictures of the cards are big and the text is like a page of each. It's looking nice, but maybe one day I'll learn Spanish and read this. That could be actually motivating because I would like to learn Spanish. But let's look at the spread and then the flip through, and then I'm ending this session. So if you're stopping the watching here, thanks for watching. If you have any comments about this book, this deck, anything about astrology, just comment down below, and I will be doing more videos about my astrology studies also in the future. And then we are going to dig in a bit deeper about other astrology resources that I'm using now with my studies. But hey, thanks for watching again, and until next time, bye guys. And if you want to stay for the end, you can continue. So the spread I'm walking through is Astrology in Action, the solar system spread. And this is a 10-card spread where you find all the planetary trumps and put them on top of your birth chart, so you can visually see better how your birth chart is playing out. And the 10 is coming from the 10 cards, meaning the 10 planetary trumps, representing these planets here on the birth chart. I'm showing you a bit further iteration, my iteration of this, because I created my whole birth chart for you with these cards, but I'm also showing all the trumps that are in my empty houses, so which don't have planets, because here you can see the empty houses don't have cards naturally because it's a 10-card spread for the planets. And I'm also showing you the planetary rulers. And I'm sorry if the camera is shaking, but this is impossible to film in any other way than on my phone. And I have small challenges. The cat is walking on top of the cards, and the dog in her panties is snorting down here underneath the table. So I'm sorry for all the noises you are making. Yes, you. But let's look at this version of my birth. Here's the full scenery. I know it's huge. I'm on my kitchen table trying to make this work. But let's look at it more closely. So this is my actual birth chart, and it's made in whole house system. So each of the houses are limited to one zodiacal sign. There are different house systems, but I'm using this. You can use whatever system you want to, and these birth charts you can get on several web pages easily. It takes you like a minute to get it if you know the date and time and place where you were born. So it's fast and easy. But where do we start? We start from the first house, and for me, my first house sits in Taurus, and my rising sign is Taurus, here with my ascendant. And the card for Taurus is the Hierophant. And the planetary ruler of my first house is Venus when I'm using the old planets system. If you use the new planet system, you will have a different ruler in each house. But I'm only using the 7 ancient planets. And the Empress card here from the Thoth is just symbolizing the house ruler. I don't have any planets in my first house, so that's why there's no planetary trump cards. I only have Corrine there. But for me, I was only, as many people, first attached to my sun sign, which is Scorpio. But now, since starting to learn more astrology and getting more into the ascendant sign, the rising sign, and looking myself through the emperor and through the effects of Venus ruling this house, it gives more insights, even for my own personality. So that's why I'm suggesting you should try this if you're interested on geeking so much on astrology with tarot. Then my second house, it's totally empty. There's nothing in there, and it's, for me, it happens to be the second house sits into Gemini, and for all of us, the houses sit with different zodiacal signs. So this is just my chart. So here we see with this deck, it's easy with the majors because you have the symbols, you can cheat, and the house ruler for my second house, because it's in Gemini, is Mercury. And my third house sits in Cancer. So this is the Chariot card. And again, where's the, yeah, here it's in her hat. I find it funny how the symbols are hidden in this deck, but there you find the symbol for Cancer. And the planetary ruler is the moon. So that's why the Thoth priestess is here. So the Thoth priestess and then the Chariot card. I'm not going into the nodes now in this one, so that's why we can ignore that one. But then in my fourth house, it goes with Leo. And the card for Leo is, of course, it's a strength card, lust card, whatever system we are using. And here, let's see, there is the symbol of Leo. And the planetary ruler for Leo is the Sun, which is an easy card, the Sun. And if you use Thoth system, you have cheat sheets also here. Can you please go away? Sorry. Taking the cat down. Okay, and into my fifth house. It sits with Virgo, and it's ruled by Mercury. So when we're using the old system, Mercury, Mercury, Venus, Venus. But if you use the modern system, the planets change wherever you go. So then the cards change also. But the card for Virgo, as we know, is the Hermit. And as you see, mine is empty. So that's why only we have the card for Mercury, which is the Magus card from the Thoth. And then we're getting some action, because if you look at my chart, it's rather empty on this side and everything else is happening on this side. So the sixth house, for me, it sits on Libra. And for Libra, we have the Justice card. And this house is ruled by Venus, but why do I, yes, it's here. I have too many cards in this house. So for the Venus, we have the Empress card again from the Thoth. But as we look closely, there's a lot of things happening. My moon is in Libra. And I have my Pluto And then I have my Saturn sitting here in Libra. So if we look at the cards, so my moon is in Libra, so the High Priestess for the moon, my Saturn, the World card, and then the Judgment card, or depending on your system, but this is for Pluto. This uses the modern symbol of Pluto. This is the other more traditional symbol for Pluto. But so Libra, Justice, Pluto, Judgment, Saturn, the World, Moon, the High Priestess, and then just the planetary ruler of this whole house. And then we get some more action. We come to Scorpio, which for me sits in the 7th house. And of course, the Death card is for Scorpio. And again, in this deck, here you find the symbol if you don't know. So as we can see, I have a lot of things happening in my 7th house, which for me is in the Scorpio. The Death card for Scorpio. And then I have, of course, because my sun sign is Scorpio, so of course my sun is in Scorpio. Then I have my Mercury in my 7th house in Scorpio, and there you can find on the Magician card the symbol for Mercury. We do have also the other zodiacal signs here, but it's signed to Mercury, this card. And then I'm losing some space. So we also have Jupiter in my 7th house, and there we can see it. There's Jupiter in the Wheel of Fortune card. But then I do also have my Venus in Scorpio, so that's why the Empress is there. And let's see, where can we find the Venus symbol? Yep, in the cup. So that's a fun game where they're hidden in this deck. And also, because I'm using the old planetary rulers for the houses, then it is here again Mars and its tower, and it will double up when we go to Aries. But this is the planetary ruler of the house, but I'm just showing here because these are the cards I identify myself a lot, being a Scorpio. So I'm showing also my decanic cards from both these decks. In this card with the Thoth, the Prince of Cups, it rules my deacons in the Wheel of the Year. And here we have the corresponding card from this deck. And then I'm born in the 2nd decan of Scorpio, which is signed to the 6 of Cups, the Pleasure card. And here's the 6 of Cups in this deck. I find watching the minors from the decans and court cards always interesting when I do, and I use them all the time when I do readings for others also. But let's continue and try to keep on the subject. My 8th house is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, or this house. It's the house ruler, the Jupiter. And then I do have my Neptune and my Uranus here in my 8th house of Sagittarius. And for the Sagittarius, we have in this deck, it's El Alquimista. So I'm not sure what's the correct title in this deck in English. Some sort of alchemist. It might be just an alchemist, but it's the Temperance card or the Art card. And here you can see. So I had my Neptune and Uranus there. So here's the Fool card from this deck. And there There you see the Uranus. And then the Hanged Man, El Golgado, in this deck. And I was first like, how is this Hanged Man, this card? But it's there. It's the picture. It's the same picture in that picture, and it's upside down. And then also there is a picture where it's upside down, so it's just continuing and continuing and continuing. This image is like turning. I found that really fascinating, even though it's not the clearest Hanged Man card, but it was really, really interesting. But there you see the Neptune. And because this house, my 8th house, is ruled by Jupiter, we do have the fortune card from the Thoth deck, just showing the ruler. And on to the next house. My 9th house is in Capricorn. And for the Capricorn, we have the Devil card from this deck. There you see the Capricorn sign. He has 2 huge toads. I'm finding this card also interesting. And then, because I have my Mars in there, and the Mars card is of course the Tower, and there's the symbol for Mars. And the planetary ruler for this house is Saturn, so that's why we have the Universe card there. Let's jump into my 10th house. It's empty, as we can see, but it's the house for Aquarius. So the card for Aquarius is Star card. There we can cheat. And the planetary ruler for this is same as with my 9th house in Capricorn. So we again have for Saturn, we have the Universe card. Then my 11th house in Pisces, it's empty, planetary wise, not going there. That's irrelevant in this video. But so for Pisces, we know we have the Moon card, and the Pisces symbol is there in her hand. And my 11th house in Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, so we have another fortune card from the Thoth deck. Then we come to my last house, the 12th house, again an empty house for me, and it's the house, for me, my 12th house sits in Aries, and Aries, this house is ruled by Mars. And so the Aries card, of course, the Emperor. And where do we see? I'm trying to look behind the camera. I guess it's only the ram horn helmet in this one, because I can't. No, it's there. Found it. Zoom in. It's right there in the ring, the Aries symbol. Oh, this is a fun game. And because my first house, my 12th house is ruled by Mars, so that's why we have the Tower card there. But so, if you want to check yourself in a deeper level with tarot cards and really basic astrology, so this is not complicated in any way. You can do this, and you can leave all the empty houses away. I'll just clean this up for you, and then you see the 10 card spread. So now when I cleaned out the empty houses from my chart, we have a lot less happening. And I'm leaving, even though my first house is basically empty, if we don't count in the asteroid Corrine here. But because it is my ascendant, and it is really important. So one basic thing about birth charts, you should first always look at your ascendant, and because it's in the first house and describes you the best. Then if you have a day chart, you should secondly look about the sun sign, and mine is still a day chart because it's on top of this. If you divide it to all, if my sun would be in any of these, it would be a day chart, and because I'm born in the afternoon, so that's why I know. And if my sun would be somewhere here, it would be a night chart. But that's why I'm going secondly to the sun card. If my sun would be here, I would secondly go to the moon. But three major things on basic simple level that one should look in their birth chart is the ascendant, the rising sign, their sun, and their moon. So that's why I'm leaving the Hierophant there, my Venusian Taurus part of me, and then because I have things happening a lot in Libra, so that's why the Justice card is there, and all my planets. In the original spread, you even leave out these cards, the zodiacal trumps, but I think that it clears this out a bit. And then in my Scorpio, we have massively, most of my planets are there, 4 planets. Then in my 8th house with Sagittarius, we had that happening. And then in my 9th house, we had in Capricorn these things happening. But if you want to try this spread, you can look it out, take out your birth chart from any website. You can use it in any house system. It's not important, but this is a fun way of exploring how and where things sit on your chart and how it looks through the lens of tarot. And for me, because now I'm digging deeper into the tarot studies, so I'm not meaning the tarot. Well, of course, tarot studies, but also with my astrology studies. So that's why I'm also in the future digging deeper and learning more about the birth charts and astrology in total. But this was just an example of the spreads of the deck. This was the most complicated on the last section of the book, this huge spread. But then if you want to see a full flip through of my Spanish version of the Witch's Tarot, that's still coming.